What are your most idiotic predictions for the 2020s? The West will be shook by the Tokyo 2020 Olympic mascot being a little too anim. The opening ceremony is just a screening of Boku no Pico. Wait, no. Lots of optometrists will use 2020 vision as their slogan. Opening your own optometrist office next year will have the ultimate advertising potential. Providing 20/20 vision. Since 2020, eye exam special $20.20 with purchase of overpriced Nike frames. A huge comeback of emo culture. The raring 20s. I'm gonna need you to go ahead and delete your account for that. Short shorts so high they go inverted and become jean jackets. Denim thongonces will be all the rage in 2020. That sounds like the most uncomfortable thing imaginable. Terry Crews elected president, thereby fulfilling the idiocracy prophecy just sooner than anyone expected. This Oval Office smells like power. It's got electrolytes. Everything 90s melodramatic is coming back. Angsty lyrics, grunge, oversized flannel, frosted tips, overalls, fanny packs, hoop earrings, chokers, high-waisted acid wash jeans. C. Lo-fi hip-hop, sad boy culture, modern thrift fashion. Edit. I agree most of this is already back as of late 2018/2019. And much like other eras, the decade started a couple years before the big era, i.e. 80s pop culture started in /78/79 and 90s pop culture started in /88/89. Edit. Read the first edit. I know they're here. I said coming back as in, it has already been popping up. I wouldn't have made the prediction otherwise, lol. Most of what you mentioned doesn't sound too bad except for the frosted tips. George R.R. Martin will release The Winds of Winter. Don't get my hopes up. Skate 4. Don't do that. Don't give me hope, please. Apple will stop releasing the iPhone in 2025 and replace it with a piece of glass with a piece of metal at the bottom of it with several buttons on it. The metal will project the screen through the glass in the phone, making it absurdly light, while also not sacrificing any processing power. Google and Amazon attempt a merger in 2027 and the US government rejects it. This causes an outrage and sweeping reform under President Marco Rubio, who goes against his party and breaks up all large companies, forcing them to compete only in smaller fields at once. While this hurts consumers short term, the rise of new competitors being able to compete, and new jobs created by new, significantly more competitive startups, the GDP of the USA increases significantly. Directly preceding the 2020 election, the market has its worst 3-day stretch in terms of value lost as a percentage since the Great Depression. Netflix is a shell of itself by 2026 due to all companies who make their own content having their own streaming services. In a stroke of genius, cable companies now sell subscriptions to these individually owned and operated streaming platforms, now referred to as channels. Cable TV is revolutionized, and the market is flipped on its head again by a resurgence in people buying large TV packages to get all the streaming platforms they want. The NFL does not play for 2 years, 2027 or 2028, due to increasing legal struggles with lawsuits guarding concussions. Most players switch to playing modified rugby, and rugby becomes the most popular sport in the USA. I will get a girlfriend. I'm sure she'll be quite handy. Sorry, but I laughed. I cried. That 2020 is gonna be the greatest year of my life. Godspeed, you magnificent bastard. Trump will get re-elected. Didn't see that one coming 4 years ago. In the words of G.W. Bush, there's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, you can't get fooled again. Some Reddit comment I read once said Bush realized he didn't want a voice clip of himself saying shame on me, and thus the fumbled sentence. That makes a lot of sense. After being really low cut and now really high waisted, women's jeans will settle in a neutral position. Might just be crazy enough to work, unless full body jeans. The Canadian tuxedo? We'll all start using our blinkers. I'm looking at you BMW drivers. In 2020, BMW will put an end to the mandatory bad driver exams bias of 2ACE before being handed the keys of their new car. Time travel will be made available to the public in 2028. Avatar 2 will be the first film to be released in virtual reality cinemas. By the end of the decade there will be a moon colony on the moon. A new trend in 2026 will be people walking around with socks covering their ears. Smart shoes where you can access apps on your shoes will be released in 2026. I'm very interested in this sock ears trend. Renewable energy and environmentalism. The debate of climate change will persist into the 2020s. However, the push for renewable energy will be stronger than ever. Solar power will become more common and the 2020s will be remembered as the decade where we began to enter the solar age. Green design and sustainable cities will be the future of architecture. I really hope you're right. The Democrats will push Biden super hard and people will be told you have to vote for him or else the world is going to end. The progressives will push back and the Democrats won't learn anything for 2016. Trump will win by default and democracy as we know it will probably decline into an irreparable state. It's supposed to be an idiotic prediction, not a hard truth prediction. He's predicting what idiots will do. It being the truth doesn't suddenly make them smart. I predict a rockstar will marry a supermodel. Yeah, this comment right here. Area 51 has been needing a physic for a while. Somalia becomes a world superpower. Linguists create a new language, English, simplified, to replace English, traditional. Heelys are a socially acceptable form of transportation. Isn't simplified English just American? Scoffs in British. With this many 70-year-olds in play and running, I could see one of the party's nominees securing the candidacy and then dying or becoming medically incapacitated and setting up what would be a huge constitutional crisis with a mixed breakup of the legislative branch. That would be one hell of a circus. If something happens to the candidate before the general election, then the party would just have to pick someone else. I'm not sure if they'd have another primary or just go with the VP nominee. Aliens actually land in the United States. Having studied American cinema, the first thing they say is take us to your leader. There's an uncomfortable pause followed by a long-winded description of the state of US politics. Long story short, the aliens have to suddenly leave. They left the Florgnacks on at home, but they'll totally call us soon. They promise. Jesus comes back and starts making statements about the Bible, is immediately detained for hate speech and put in a mental hospital for thinking he is Jesus Christ. The US government will admit that 9/11 was an inside job. If that were true they'd have to wait minimally 100 years to reveal it. There are still many people still living who were directly affected by the events of that day and there would be riots and protests and there honestly may not even be a country by the time that's all said and done. Around 2010 I saw a documentary which stated that the magnetic field of the earth would have moved so much by 2020 that you could see the northern lights in Germany. Don't know if that is BS or if I should be excited. Jazz is going to have a renaissance, the economy is going to take a nosedive, fascist movements around the world are going to gain more traction, and pole sitting will make a brief comeback, with several people breaking bones in the name of #POLESITTINGCHALLENGE. Basically, the 1920s, but this time we can make memes about the pieces of the next world war falling into place as it happens. Queen Elizabeth will die. I think at this point she's immortal. In the second half the decade, someone will invent a device that will allow us to communicate with animals. Although everyone will be amazed by the device, we will find that it yields little more than one-sided conversations. We will destroy the devices, forget they ever existed, and go back to making up conversations between ourselves and our pets. The thing with an invention like this is that most animals have a fairly low IQ, so the conversations wouldn't go well, even if they weren't one-sided. Hollywood will start nailing successful remakes of popular movies and usher in an era of great remakes. Era of great remakes. I'd prefer an era of great new movies. Danny DeVito will become president, and then king, bringing communism to the US, and giving monthly rations of eggs in the trying times.